coherent run-through of the bigger picture. Initial focus, and this is a rather large market. We went through that. B2B integration, high level and low level, if you like upstairs and downstairs, or if you like client side and server side. Depending on who you are, that's what we do. And white label applications, first party applications, mobile enterprise, yeah, you've understood all that, right? So when we've sold this to many of these, we need something like a friend store to do the upsell, because the cost of sales is, no. So you want to automate the upsell to these boys and girls. But at the same time, you want to have developers and developer companies, might be some of these, but developer companies in themselves, freelance or whomever, who can build their own APIs in this ecosystem and sell in the friend store. And by the way, the friend store, 15%, does that sound okay to you? Or 10 if you have volume? Why should it be 30?
Yeah,
why is it 30?
Salesforce is 15.
Yeah.
Apple set it to 30, but Salesforce
Yeah.
is 15.
Exactly. So, and that's a debatable thing. And when you own your own store, of course, there's a lot of things. But here they can buy storage, CPU, APIs. They can have access. This is very important. They can have access to open source software, which you don't get for normal people. We can rate it like TripAdvisor style and whatever, and let people play with it in this paradigm, even B2C. Now, the friend store, you've understood how that can play. And for those who create their own apps, create their own APIs and sell, they can they make their own developer environment and sell or distribute. Before I talk about the consumer part, there's another part here, which is the real reason why we are doing it. Okay, so, and this is a bit of a, let me take you back to 2013. I was tasked, as I left as CEO of my old company. It's always smart when you plan to exit to not be the CEO, because you will have golden handcuffs and all of that. Since I've been, and the company was about golden handcuffs and equity incentive plans, so I became the chair and planned other things. So somebody called me and asked me whether I could help them with anonymous communication to protect whistleblowers. Think about that for a moment. So Tor onion routing, and it's a very ugly discipline. It's very difficult. This was, and then, boom, Snowden, boom, Manning, same summer. And a lot of issues. And I was working for the financial people and making this service available. And then I got to understand how difficult that is. And then in later that October that year, the head of security for Google quit and started to work for NSA. And then you had LavaBit and Silent Circle, and yeah, you got the story. So we were thinking a part of that. And if you had a new paradigm, maybe you could rid some of these issues or helpfully do something better. Do we have real democracy without secret election? Yes or no? It's a binary answer, by the way. You need secret election to have a democracy, correct? So you gotta have encryption, you gotta have data privacy, you gotta have a private life, yeah? So many of these things that are behind that. But we're not crusaders, and we're not, but we are a bit of do-gooders. That's why we call it friend, yeah? And so you need to, and you can't accomplish those great things unless it's a commercial success. The high-level humanitarian things for education in this. Anyone with a cheap microcomputer made by Dave over here, or a Raspberry Pi, and a keyboard and a screen, they can participate without affording to buy a Mac or an iOS or an iPad or something like that, or a high-end computer, because you don't need it in this paradigm. So the educational initiative, the academic initiative, research, it makes a lot of sense to license something like this out as open source AGPL version 3 for non-commercial purposes. So that means we are playing in that field too, and actually creating image that will work on small mini computers. And we're talking to the academics. We're executing on that, but when you talk to VCs about that, they don't want to hear that. They want to hear revenue. And you can stay here and make revenue for a long time. And then some of these people, they will start to sell in the B2C, right? I've already explained the telcos will do it. And others we will enable people to sell games here rather than sell it on Steam. Why shouldn't you? There are many people who are selling on Steam who don't like that too much. We can enable the hell out of that, excuse my French. Now, we can also, to consumers, anything we sell here. This is the hardest discipline, agreed? And if you fail here, you bounce. So it has to be something you fall into. It has to be so intuitive that you don't want to do anything after 10 seconds, right? 10 or how many seconds, I don't know, before you really like this. But the point is, anything we do here, any service we do there, we can also start playing here because we are agnostic and we tear down the barriers of the silos, the loyalty programs. And that's a pretty nice thing to do, I think. And so I think you get the all over philosophy here, and it's not a revolution, it's evolution. And you have to do it friendly style, and it has to make sense to everyone. So you're not going to say, we are going to replace so-and-so. No, we're going to help them coexist a bit more. So that's very high fly, okay? But
doesn't sound very Viking-like.
Rape and pillage, rape and pillage, rape and pillage.
Friendly Viking.
But then we get into the functional piracy and the microtransaction world where it is possible to distributed computing and distributed functions and meta computing, meta programming, where that's a nice function in that program, that's a nice function in that program, that's a nice function in that program. What if I combine them and oops, I have a new program. It's a meta program. I didn't
pieces.
Yeah, exactly. And
So now
guess what?
licensing is your problem.
Guess what? We have something that's called Do It. It's a playlist. So I put all of these things in a playlist to play my kitchen in an IoT environment, if you see. So the light starts like this, and the music starts, and da-da-da. And then you come into my kitchen and say, Arne, I like the way you drive your kitchen. Can you send me that playlist, please? Oh, yeah, sure. And I send that to you. And then you go, no, but I want this to start before that.
Right.
And then, there you go. Cool. And then if you are really good at that, you can sell your kitchen style. Yeah, you see what I'm going at. And it's going to go crazy. We haven't thought about, in this paradigm, with so many degrees of freedom, we haven't thought about the tip of the iceberg of what can come if you really want to go megalomaniac. And believe me, we are nuts in that sense that we can see and smell and understand. But I am also smart enough to know 1 foot, on dry stones, by the way, because I have to make sure this is cash positive the whole time, so that none of the financiers come into this game and try to pull my rug. Yeah. So, but okay. Thank you for the time to sort of and was that okay?
Yeah, I mean, so that's it. There's, we can extrapolate, and we like to do that. And since we work this project 24 hours a day, not sleep, then every time we grab a beer, it's extrapolation time.
Right.
And of course, we're lucky to have a business dude who can listen to that. And he, of course, contributes his own extrapolations. But it's also about being able to restrict yourself and hold back. And also trying to prioritize what extrapolations comes first. And from a technical point of view, what can we do without too many changes? And what changes can we do without blocking access to innovations? You know, so basically you have to be backward compatible with your ideas.
You know, and I'm always better with concrete examples than I am with
Theory.
Yeah, and so you know, so for example, the idea that there is this sort of meta programs coming together, is that all going to be based on programs that have adopted friend APIs, or how do you connect with a legacy system?
It's maybe a poor example, but this company so and so has an old, heavy legacy application. And don't kill me, Adobe, but let's use Photoshop for example. But it's not a good example, maybe. But maybe people don't want to pay for the whole thing anymore, but they want to pay for some bits and bobs and pieces. And they can microtransact that, and I don't have to, in this paradigm, install anything, not a driver, anything. I can just send the call, have the job done, get the answer back, and go print it locally, wherever, without installing anything. And yes, so you can imagine a lot of people can squeeze the lemon a bit more in this paradigm. They can actually extract more out of their investment over a longer period of time. You can extend the investment, midlife upgraded, if you like.
I like that example.
Like, what can I virtualize today with RC1 if I were to download it in a month or a week when it's there?
First of all, you can virtualize the desktop environment, and that's a no-brainer. No, that's basically the environment. You're virtualizing an environment. That's the first thing. If you take from which OSs, the open source version you're not going to be using for Windows yet. That's why I'm saying we're keeping this technology a little bit to our chest because we don't have a strategy for it. Immediately when you, I know you'd really want to have it.
It's like, so I could take a Linux application and virtualize it. How about
the RC1? If you'd have the okay, let me see. You haven't heard this. So basically, we have the open source version, which means everybody can have Friend. Then, once you have it, we're putting in an upgrade mechanism in it. So let's say you swipe your card for a vendor license, which is not an enterprise license, but which is something far lower down on the tree. So you swipe your card for a vendor license, and that's basically like joining the Apple store, right? So then you upgrade your license to a commercial license, where you can now get access to the commercial features and stream a service into the rest of the network. So with that service, you could do the Windows stuff. You could do, because obviously it could be that it would be a Windows application you'd be streaming out. Then you could do everything I've showed you on screen. So you could integrate with Linux, you could integrate with Mac OS, you could integrate with COBOL, you could integrate with whatever you want.
We do digital signage, so people want to put information, entertainment, or ads on the screen, we can manage, incredibly large networks of that. And sometimes the question comes, I have PowerPoint or Word. Well, Word's a great example. I have a Word document. And it's like, Word is a terrible way to do content for digital signage, but it takes the companies a certain time to realize that in the first instance, and in the second instance, they have a lot of Word documentation that they want to throw up, good, bad, or indifferent. It's something that they want. So we could go and integrate part of LibreOffice Word writer into it, or there's libraries we could use. But at some point, someone's going to bring yet another application, and to be able to say, hey, we can take any application, stand it up as a service, and basically stream it down to a web-based digital signage engine. That's a direct, simple application, right? We're not using virtualization in the clever sense where you're putting multiple applications together on one screen and doing things between them as much as hosting a simple application regardless of where it is. So in terms of, I always look for what's an easy step in height, what's a small step I can take that will, prove a result. I can then turn around and tell it to more people within the organization, our partners, our services teams, however, and say, this is what we've accomplished. And they're like, okay. And then I say, and this is what else might be possible based on my understanding. So kind of after we talked about next step stuff, I was thinking back again, close in, which is what's a simple thing that I could do, and that's the first thing I come up with.
That's cool. Yeah, that's one thing.
And I mean, there are people who want to do two-way video chat, and that's certainly possible today with WebRTC-based standards. But again, you could just swallow something, whether it's your own service or whether it's Skype.
This sounds like something close to technical advisory board that could be useful for a business advisory board. And this is something we want to achieve.